Hello again. This time we will learn about functions in OCaml. We mentioned before, and we always mention that OCaml is a functional language, is extremely powerful and extremely useful. Hopefully from now on this will start to hit you. So let's go ahead and have a look at how we can and use functions in OCaml. Now, the most basic form or the usual form of declaring a function in OCaml is this way here. We use the keyword let, and then we provide a function name, and then we provide one or more parameters, and then we use the equal sign. Then we have our expressions there to use the parameters or to do some logic or to do some calculations or anything that we want to do, maybe print out something. And then if the function returns something, then we also provide the return value. And by the way, in OCaml we can return more than one value, but we'll come to that later. And then we close it with a double semicolon. Using that, if we are using, for example, sort of like a source code like in a file, and then we try to compile it, using the double semicolon is actually optional. Or for example, even in our top loop, if we want to define or declare multiple functions together, i.e. after one another, then we don't have to have a double semicolon to separate between functions. Again, we'll see that when we do more coding, and that's the best way to learn. As you know, read, and then the best way to learn is to have some hands-on experience and do a bit of coding. Now, let's have a look at this simple function which finds or returns the maximum of two variables x and y. So what we do is we use the keyword let, and then provide a function name max, and then two variables x and y, and we say, and of course the equal sign. So that's the function sort of header, that's the declaration, and then this is the body of the function. If x is larger than y, then x else y, and then double semicolon. So what's that? If you remember when we spoke about the if statement, we said that, and we always say that everything here is an expression. In OCaml, everything is an expression. So this automatically will return this, otherwise it'll return y. One other very interesting thing that I want you to notice here is that we didn't actually specify the types of the input variables and the output variable. Yes, and that's extremely good. Why is that good? Well, this is good because we can actually provide variables of any type. Yeah, we can provide two integers or two floats or two characters, or even if we want two strings. And as we said before, the best thing is to have some hands-on. So let's copy and paste this in our top loop. Let's go into top loop and paste this. Have another look, please. Let max xy equals, if x is larger than y, then return x, else return y. And notice here, so we mentioned before about the input and output variables, and the return variables. This apostrophe a, what that means is the function is polymorphic. Polymorphic here means that it can receive a variable of any type. Let's have a look and see how that works. So let's say use two variables, for example, max, give me the maximum between 5 and 6, for example, double semicolon, and we have 6. If I say give me the maximum of 6.7, 8.9, just to use two floats, then it'll return 8.9. If I say maximum of, for example, true and false, let's try this. I don't know what what's going to happen now. It returns true. So true is usually considered larger than false. That's very useful to know. And then let's give me the maximum of, for example, character A and character F, and then we return F because F is larger than A. Probably the ASCII code is larger, that's why. And then again for two strings, let's say string 1 and hello or something. What's larger? It says string 1 is actually larger. I hope now that you're getting the point now. So we're learning more than one thing at the same time. That's the syntax, or the usual way of declaring a function in OCaml. There is another nice way to declare anonymous function. Remember this term, anonymous function, by using function expressions. The beauty of OCaml. Yeah, but we'll come to that. But that's how we declare a basic function in OCaml. pass variables or parameters, and then do some logic and return something. As you know, a function can either do some calculation, return a value, or have some side effect. Some side effect means the function doesn't really calculate anything, but for example, we just print out something. So if this function prints out a value, then that's a side effect. It doesn't really calculate anything or return anything. Yes, although in OCaml even function like that returns actually something. But what we also learn in this lesson is this idea of polymorphism. The way OCaml works is that we don't have to, we can actually, and I'll show you how to do that in the coming videos, but we can specify the type of the variables and even the return, the type of the return value. But if we leave it like that, that's polymorphic, i.e. it can accept variables of any type. But let's try, for example, to compare float and int, and it doesn't work. You see, the good thing about OCaml, we mentioned that, you know, very strict with types and things like that. It's telling us here that it's actually expecting a type float, because the first one, so it actually assumes that the first one is sort of is the base variable or the base type, and then assumes that the second one, when all of them of course are not specified, i.e. their type is not specified, specified, it assumes that they're all of the same type as the very first variable. That's why it's actually complaining. Now in OCaml, believe it or not, if we go down to the very bottom of how functions work in OCaml, we can find out that actually every function receives only one variable and returns one variable. Now it appears to us that it actually is receiving two variables, but in reality it isn't. In reality it's actually receiving only one variable, and it returns only one variable. This is called currying in OCaml, and we'll learn about that in the coming videos. But let me just tell you more about the power of functions in OCaml. That functions in OCaml are first class. What does that mean? What that means is that, and please, if you're actually taking notes, please write this down. That functions, we can actually pass them as parameters to other functions. So instead of passing a variable here of type x, int, float, char, or string, we can actually pass a function, believe it or not. Another thing is that we can actually return a function instead of returning a primitive type, or maybe a struct or a class or an instance of a class. We can actually return a function. Not only this, but we can also store or put functions in data structures, believe it or not. Yes, we can put functions in data structures. Maybe you have not seen that in Java or in C, but we can, for example, have a linked list or an array or a graph data structure, and then the element of those data structures are actually functions. Powerful, isn't it? As I said before, please, if you're taking notes, please write these down, because we will come to them. Now, I think I'm going to stop here. Let's continue and, for example, learn more about currying. Now, this function here, if you remember this function here, max x and y, it appears to us that it's actually receiving two variables, yes? But as we said before, what happens now is that in reality, this process or this operation called currying, in this operation, what happens is the function max now, what happens is it takes only the first variable, x, and it returns a new function which takes the second variable as an argument, which is y. Yes? So what happens is max x returns a new function, and the new function receives y as its argument, and then the comparison happens. This all happens in the background. If we have more than two variables, then the process continue for each variable one after another. So max x returns a function which receives y as a parameter, which again returns another function, and it's applied to the next variable, and so on and so forth, until it passes over all the variables, and then it does the logic and returns the return or the variable that we want to return. But remember again the power of OCaml, the power of functions, that they're of the first class. We can pass them as variables, we can return them as return values, we can store them in data structures, and even more than that. Thank you very much indeed for watching, and I'll see you next time.